So, while the king was resting, heavily medicated and entirely vulnerable behind the reinforced doors of his private quarters, a shadow operation was quietly unfolding deep beneath the palace. It was just past midnight. The corridors were empty. The loyal staff had been dismissed for the evening, and Queen Camilla quietly made her move. This was a calculated strike on the most fiercely guarded vault in the entire monarchy. A midnight emergency, a smash and grab wrapped in royal velvet and masked by shadows. The target wasn't just any old heirloom left to gather dust. It was the holy grail of the Windsor collection, Princess Diana's legendary sapphire and diamond suite. These are the stones that defined a generation, the jewels that were practically soaked in the tears, the betrayals, and the ultimate triumphs of the people's princess. Camilla's scheme was as brilliant as it was utterly ruthless. She intended to pull the priceless suite from the royal vaults under the highly questionable guise of a permanent loan. But she didn't just want to wear them, she wanted to erase them. Her master stroke was a secret arrangement to have these priceless stones quietly recut, completely redesigned, and seamlessly absorbed into her own private, unaudited personal collection. Once altered, they would be unrecognizable. The visual legacy of Diana completely dismantled, melted down, and worn as a victory trophy by the very woman who made her life a living nightmare. Camilla thought she had covered every single track. The midnight paperwork was forged and signed. The vault custodian was conveniently reassigned to another wing. She walked down that subterranean hallway with the absolute certainty of a woman who believed she had finally conquered the ghost of her ultimate rival. But you won't believe the look of absolute, unadulterated terror on Camilla's face when she reached for the handle and the vault doors literally locked her out. The security system flashed a blinding red. The heavy steel mechanisms bolted shut with a deafening thud that echoed violently through the empty palace basement. She was locked out, humiliated, stopped dead in her tracks. And the man holding the digital override code, sitting miles away but watching her every single move, Prince William. To truly grasp the magnitude of this midnight interception, you have to look backward. You have to understand that these aren't just pretty stones pulled from the earth to look nice at a state banquet. If you manage to dig deep into the forgotten royal archives, pushing right past the heavily redacted ledgers of King George VI's private purchases in 1947, you find the terrifying truth about how these vaults actually operate. King George VI knew the danger of a fragmented family. He saw firsthand what happened when King Edward VIII abdicated and tried to walk away with priceless family treasures. So, George VI established a bloodline lock, a sacred, unspoken trust that dictated certain stones, specifically those bearing the heaviest historical weight, could only ever be touched by the direct line of succession. These sapphires were curated to represent the unbreakable spine of the monarchy. They were never meant for a second wife. They were never meant for a queen consort who married into the institution decades late under a cloud of public scandal. They belong to the blood. They belong to the true heirs. When Camilla tried to breach that vault in the dead of night, she wasn't just trying to steal a necklace. She was trying to arrogantly rewrite a royal decree that has stood in absolute silence for nearly 80 years. This midnight emergency is just the flashpoint of a much larger, far more dangerous war currently tearing the royal family apart behind closed doors. On one side, you have the protectors of the legacy, Prince William, Princess Catherine, and the ever-watchful, ruthlessly efficient Princess Anne. They stand together as the iron wall of the Windsor bloodline. They know exactly what is at stake. Catherine wears explores the crown jewels with a deep, reverent respect for history, fully understanding she is merely a humble custodian for the next generation. But then, on the other side of this toxic divide, you have Queen Camilla and her inner circle of quiet operators, the strategists. This is a camp that thrives in the gray areas of palace protocol. They are maneuvering in the dark, desperate to consolidate power and hoard priceless assets while the king is frail and the inevitable transition of power looms closer every single day. Camilla's camp knows her time at the absolute top of the food chain is strictly limited. They know that the absolute second William takes the throne, her unprecedented access to the royal vaults, the sprawling properties, and the unimaginable wealth will vanish overnight. So the scheme was born. Grab what you can while you still can. Claim a permanent loan. Alter the stones beyond recognition and hide them forever behind the impenetrable walls of a private trust. It was the perfect crime, until she was completely outmaneuvered by the Prince of Wales. The fury inside the palace right now is radioactive. Camilla's camp is scrambling, furiously pointing fingers, trying to find the inside leak that tipped off William's private intelligence network. Because William didn't just stumble upon this plot by accident, he was waiting for her. He knew exactly what she was going to do before her hand even touched the vault door. The sheer audacity of Camilla's strategist network cannot be overstated. For weeks, her loyalists had been quietly laying the groundwork for this heist. They manipulated inventory logs. They subtly altered security schedules. They even had a master jeweler waiting discreetly in an unmarked vehicle just outside the palace gates, ready to receive the stones and begin the irreversible recutting process before the sun even came up. They wanted to present the king with a fait accompli, a done deal that he would be too exhausted and too medicated to reverse. But they severely underestimated the lingering ghost of Princess Diana, and more importantly, they underestimated the fierce, unapologetic wrath of her eldest son. When those vault doors slammed shut, sealing the sapphires away in the dark, it was a profound statement of absolute power. Camilla was left standing in the dimly lit corridor, her grand scheme shattered, her pulse racing, staring at a solid steel door that essentially told her she will never truly belong. The fury that erupted the next morning behind closed doors was unlike anything the palace staff had ever witnessed. Camilla demanded answers, she demanded access, but every single door she tried to open was suddenly, inexplicably, blocked by the invisible hand of the Prince of Wales. He had completely outmaneuvered her, stripping away her authority in the dead of night without ever having to raise his voice. This wasn't just about jewelry. This was William drawing a line in the sand, a declaration of war against the creeping ambition of a queen consort who had finally flown too close to the sun. The silence in that subterranean corridor was absolutely deafening. William didn't just lock a vault door. He locked down a legacy. He drew a line in the cold stone floor of the palace that can never, ever be uncrossed. The tension hanging in the air right now is thick enough to cut with a knife, and the fallout is just beginning to leak into the public eye. There's a lot more to this unfolding story, so make sure you're subscribed to Crown Gaze so you don't miss the next update, because the deeper you dig into this midnight standoff, the more terrifying the palace secrets become. You might be asking yourself how William pulled off this digital masterstroke. How did a prince legally and physically override the reigning queen consort in her own residence, right under the nose of the king? The answer lies in the hidden evidence. We are talking about restricted documents filed under charter seals, documents that were absolutely never supposed to see the light of day. Just hours after the vault door slammed shut in Camilla's face, leaked memos from the royal solicitor's private notes began circulating among the highest, most trusted echelons of the palace guard. These weren't standard legal briefings. They were doomsday contingency plans. Decades ago, highly classified instructions were drawn up. The late Queen Elizabeth II was a master of the long game. She saw everything. She knew the players on her chessboard intimately, far better than they knew themselves. Deep inside her private mahogany desk at Windsor Castle, hidden from the prying eyes of ambitious courtiers, she kept a series of secret, handwritten notes. These were her final, unvarnished directives on the survival of her bloodline. Elizabeth knew that Camilla's calculated assent was a necessary evil to keep Charles stable. She allowed the marriage to happen. She even, eventually, and with great reluctance, allowed the title of Queen Consort, but she absolutely refused to hand over the soul of the Windsor family. The late Queen knew that once she was gone, a massive power vacuum would instantly rip the family apart. She knew Camilla would try to quietly blur the lines between historic crown property and her own personal wealth. And above all else, Queen Elizabeth knew she had to protect the memory of Princess Diana, not just for the sake of public relations, but for William. Those sapphires are not just beautiful gems. They are the physical embodiment of Diana's pain, her incredible resilience, and her undying, unbreakable connection to the British public. When Diana wore those stones, she completely eclipsed the entire royal apparatus. Camilla has always hated those sapphires. She despised everything they represented. Every single time she looked at them in the royal catalog, they were a glaring, blinding reminder that she would never, ever be the people's princess. Taking them wasn't just about greed, it was about pure revenge. It was a psychological assassination of a woman who has been gone for decades. Camilla wanted to look in the mirror, wearing those recut diamonds, and know she had finally won. To let Camilla melt them down, alter them, and wear them as a victory trophy would be the ultimate desecration. It would be an unforgivable erasure of history. Contrast this dark, sprawling ambition with Princess Catherine. Catherine, who has never once asked for a single piece of jewelry that wasn't expressly and formally offered to her by the monarch. Catherine, who wears the late Queen's pearls with tears in her eyes and a quiet, unbreakable loyalty. Catherine understands the immense, crushing weight of the institution. She serves the crown. She protects the legacy. Camilla, on the other hand, expects the crown to serve her. This midnight heist was never about love for the monarchy. It was always about the prize. The calculated ascent of a woman who waited in the shadows for decades, slowly and methodically maneuvering her way into the king's life, then his throne, and now his most sacred and heavily guarded vaults. The leaked memos reveal a chilling level of premeditation that would make your blood run cold. The royal solicitor's private notes detail exactly how Camilla's camp planned to exploit a temporary lapse in the king's physical and cognitive awareness. They had quietly drafted a permanent loan agreement that was deliberately and legally ambiguous. It was specifically designed to bypass the strict, unforgiving inventory checks of the Royal Collection Trust. The forged paperwork was slipped into a massive stack of routine estate management documents. All it needed was a quick, careless signature from a heavily medicated king, and Diana's sapphires would vanish forever into a private, unaudited trust controlled entirely by Camilla's family. It was a flawless deception, but they didn't count on the ghost of Elizabeth II, and they certainly didn't count on the absolute, unwavering devotion of the men who still serve the late Queen's memory from the shadows. Someone inside Camilla's inner circle is a ghost, a double agent, a fierce loyalist to the true bloodline who saw the forged paperwork being processed and immediately tipped off William's private intelligence team. The Prince of Wales didn't hesitate for a single second. He didn't call his father. He didn't convene a family meeting to discuss their feelings. He executed a flawless, ruthless counterstrike in the dead of night. He used the very legal mechanisms his grandmother left behind to spring a trap that Camilla arrogantly walked right into. Imagine the sheer, unadulterated panic coursing through Camilla's veins in that basement. The sudden, horrifying realization that she was being watched, that her every single move was anticipated, tracked, and brilliantly countered by her stepson. William, the grieving boy who once walked with his head bowed behind his mother's coffin, is now the man defending her legacy with an absolute iron fist. He is no longer the compliant, patient heir waiting his turn. He is a warrior king in waiting, and he has just shown the Queen Consort exactly who truly holds the keys to the kingdom. How exactly did Prince William orchestrate this ultimate betrayal betrayal of Camilla's grand scheme. He didn't just use a digital keypad to lock a physical door. He used the most devastating, legally indestructible weapon in the entire history of the British monarchy. When those vault mechanisms bolted shut, they weren't just sealing away Diana's sapphires with cold steel. They were enforcing a constitutional death blow known only in the deepest, most heavily restricted circles of the monarchy as an anticipatory obstruction mandate. This isn't just some polite palace guideline. It isn't a simple rule that can be rewritten by a clever lawyer. It is a terrifyingly brilliant legal tripwire forged by the late Queen Elizabeth II herself. It is hidden deep within a shadowy, impenetrable covenant trust, and it is entirely powered by the ancient, unquestionable, and absolute authority of the royal prerogative. Queen Elizabeth II knew the law better than the absolute best constitutional scholars in the realm. She knew perfectly well that a reigning monarch, even her own son Charles, technically holds sweeping powers to gift, loan, or alter items from the royal collection. So she created a loophole that is completely and utterly unbreakable. The anticipatory obstruction mandate was drafted under absolute secrecy during her final years, long before Charles ever took the throne. It specifically dictates that any jewel possessing profound historical or dynastic sensitivity, especially those explicitly linked to the preservation of the direct bloodline, cannot ever be legally transferred, permanently loaned, or physically altered by a reigning monarch without the direct, unanimous, and legally recorded consent of the Prince of Wales. Do you understand what that actually means? Elizabeth reached out from the grave and stripped Charles of his ultimate authority over the crown's most sacred relics. She built an invisible, legal fortress around Diana's legacy that Camilla can never, ever breach. When Camilla's forged midnight paperwork hit the digital system, it triggered the anticipatory obstruction mandate instantly. It was an automatic, legally binding checkmate. The sheer beauty of this covenant trust is that it is entirely irreversible. It does not matter if King Charles wakes up tomorrow, completely lucid, and demands the vault be opened for his wife. It does not matter if Camilla throws the most explosive, earth-shattering temper tantrum the palace walls have ever seen. The royal prerogative, once executed in this highly specific trust formation by a preceding sovereign, permanently binds the hands of the current king. The stones are legally frozen. The vault cannot be opened. The transfer is completely dead in the water. Camilla's high-priced network of strategists and lawyers who thought they were so incredibly clever drafting that permanent loan are now staring blindly at a constitutional brick wall that they have absolutely zero power to dismantle. The sheer, terrifying genius of William's midnight intervention is that he didn't even have to be in the room to utterly destroy her plot. He let the ghost of his grandmother do the heavy lifting. Queen Elizabeth II practically grabbed Camilla by the wrist in the dark and said no. This is the absolute ultimate nightmare scenario for the queen consort. For years, she has carefully curated her public image. She slowly built her influence, quietly replacing loyalists, believing she was finally the undisputed, untouchable matriarch of the royal family. But in one single, profoundly humiliating night, William proved that she is nothing but a temporary guest in a house governed by ancient blood. Her calculated ascent just hit a titanium ceiling. She can wear the heavy crowns at state banquets. She can smile warmly for the flashing cameras. But the true power, the actual beating soul of the monarchy, has been completely fenced off from her forever. The fallout from this midnight emergency is currently rippling through every single corridor of power in London. The king remains heavily guarded and entirely isolated from the reality of what just happened in his own basement. The queen consort is reportedly furious, utterly humiliated, and dangerously cornered like never before. And Prince William, he is standing tall, perfectly silent, and completely immovable. He has drawn the battle lines in the stone. He has proven to the entire world that he will protect his mother's sacred legacy with a ruthless, icy precision that terrified even his own father. The palace is no longer just a family home. It is an active, hostile war zone. Factions are whispering in the shadows. Loyalties are being violently tested by the hour. Every single member of the royal household knows that something fundamental has just broken. and it can never, ever be put back together. The velvet gloves are permanently off. We are witnessing a total collapse of the fragile, carefully constructed piece that has barely held this family together since the late Queen's passing. This isn't just a petty squabble over a diamond necklace. This is a brutal, unforgiving fight for the very soul and survival of the institution itself. The ground is shifting under Camilla's feet. History is being rewritten in the darkest corners of the palace vaults. The ultimate showdown between the ghost of Diana, the iron will of William, and the creeping ambition of the strategist queen consort has finally arrived. The tension inside the palace is absolute, and the future of the crown hangs by a thread. If you want to stay ahead of this explosive royal crisis, as more classified details inevitably leak from the palace, you need to subscribe to Crown Gaze right now. Hit that like button, leave your thoughts in the comments below on William's genius midnight strike, and make sure your notifications are turned on. The palace secrets are spilling out, and we will be right here to expose every single one of them.